The roosters had not yet crowed, and Obudu village was still wrapped in the hush of early dawn when the cries of a baby pierced the silence like a machete slicing through thick bush. It was Mama Ijoma who first heard the wailing, a sound, too, persistent to be the wild goats, too fragile to be the night birds. She clutched her shawl tighter around her shoulders and lit the clay lamp in her hut. The rhythmic thump of her walking stick echoed as she stepped onto the red soil path, the air still pregnant with night dew. She followed the sound past the yam stalls and the sleeping dogs curled beneath overturned wooden carts. The crying led her to her tomato stand near the entrance of the market square, and there, under a battered calabash bowl, she found her. A baby girl, swaddled in old Ankara cloth, lay in a bamboo basket. Her eyes were wide, her skin soft as echo dough, and her fists clenched tight like she was ready to fight the world she had just entered. No name tag, no letter. Just a half-eaten garden egg beside her and a broken necklace that had likely slipped from her mother's neck in the hurry of abandonment. The old woman bent slowly, knees cracking, and lifted the baby into her arms. "Chineke, who will leave a child like this?" she whispered. The baby instantly stopped crying, gazing up into her tired, wrinkled face. And just like that, a bond was formed. Mama Ijoma had buried her husband 12 rainy seasons ago. She had no children of her own, only a quiet compound, a small tomato farm, and aching knees that protested every morning. The villagers gathered that morning, murmuring in clusters. "Let the church take the child," someone said. "No, give her to the city social center. She may be cursed, born of shame," another whispered, but Mama Ijoma held the baby close to her chest, wrapped her in her wrapper, and said only one thing. "I may be old, but my heart is not tired. Let her stay." And so the child stayed. And the village began to call her Amira, meaning one who will rise. Amira grew like cassava in rainy season, strong and fast. She had wide eyes that missed nothing, quick feet that outran the goats, and a laugh that could warm even the stingiest old man's heart. She helped Mama Ijoma at the market, carried tomatoes on her head before she turned 10, and learned how to slice okra and balance firewood like a village daughter. While other children teased her for having no real parents, Amira always pointed at Mama Ijoma and declared, "This is my mama, the one who chose me," and Mama Ijoma would beam with pride, even if her bones ached and her sight dimmed. But as Amira grew older, her curiosity also bloomed. She would ask questions that made elders blink. Why do rich people drive cars and we walk barefoot? Why don't we have lights all the time? Why does the radio say life is better in the city? One day, at the riverbank, Amira stared into the water and said, "Mama, maybe I'm not meant to sell tomatoes forever." Mama Ijoma sighed, dipping her feet into the warm water. "My child, it is not wrong to dream, but don't forget the ground that holds your feet." On Amira's 17th birthday, if the day of her discovery counted as such, a stranger came to the village. He was tall, wore sunglasses even at sunset, and drove a shiny black car that attracted every eye. He said he was a businessman from Port Harcourt, looking to invest in land. But he spent more time near the market, watching the young girls giggle. His eyes always lingered on Amira, who by then had become the most beautiful girl in the village, slim-waisted, sharp-tongued, with cheekbones that could cut yam. The man spoke sweet words, promised opportunities, a modeling contract, a city, job, even schooling. "You're too beautiful to rot here in dust," he told her. Mama Ijoma warned her. The pastor preached. Even her friends cautioned her. But Amira had tasted ambition, and it was sweeter than agbalumo. One morning she tied her wrapper, packed her few things in a black polythene bag, and left a note on the clay table. "Mama, forgive me. I will make you proud. I promise." When Mama Ijoma found the note, She sat on the floor for hours, motionless. The tomato baskets remained unpacked. The goats wandered unmilked. That night, for the first time in years, she didn't light her kerosene lamp. For months, she waited. At the market entrance every Saturday, the day lorries brought people back from the city. But Amira never returned. Sometimes villagers would mock her gently. "Your daughter is probably in a mansion now." Other times, they whispered behind her back, "Maybe she was trafficked. Maybe she's in trouble." But Mama Ijoma just smiled and said, "She is a strong child. I raised her. She will return, with shoes made of gold." One night, as Mama Ijoma stirred ogbono soup over a clay stove, she looked at the moon and whispered to herself, "Wherever you are, Amira, remember, the hands that first held you. Don't let the city wash away your soul." But deep inside, something unsettled her spirit. The dreams began. Dreams of fire, of Amira crying in a golden dress, of the market people turning their backs. And the next full moon would bring with it a return, but not the one anyone had hoped for. It was on a Wednesday, market day in Obudu, when the sky grew heavy, not with rain, but with something unseen. The sun hovered lazily behind clouds, casting a pale light over the village. Children played with old tires, women hawked groundnut in raffia baskets, and the scent of grilled plantain drifted from Mama Kolo's stall. It was life as usual until the low hum of an approaching engine pierced the air. Villagers turned. Heads lifted. Conversations stilled. From beyond the hill came a sleek black SUV, tires slicing the red dust like it was silk. The engine purred like a lion who knew it ruled the jungle. "Iwo, who is coming like a governor?" muttered Paobasi, squinting. The car pulled up at the very edge of the market square. Its windows were tinted, the kind that only city people used, to hide their eyes, or their souls. For a moment, no one moved. The children stopped playing. Even the flies buzzing over dried fish stilled. Then the door opened, and out stepped a woman. She wore high heels that clicked against the uneven earth like thunder clapping against stone. Her gown shimmered like fish scales, designer silk in shades of emerald and black. Her skin glowed, her makeup flawless, and around her neck diamonds glittered like stars stolen from the sky. But it was her face that made mouths fall open. "Wait, is that not? Huh? Is it Amira? Jesus, it's her. Oh, she has returned." But this was not the dusty girl who once carried tomatoes on her head. This was a woman of wealth, of poise, of power. A ring as big as a pigeon's egg sat on her finger. Her lips were painted deep red. Her hair, bone straight, cascading down her back like melted chocolate. She looked like she belonged in Lagos, or even London, not under the shade of mango trees in a forgotten village. The crowd parted as she walked through. No one dared speak. Only Mama Ijoma, standing by her tomato stall with hands stained in pepper, whispered, "Amira, my child?" Amira stopped in front of her. Her eyes scanned the old woman from head to toe, noting the faded wrapper, the cracked feet, the tomato seeds under her nails. Then, slowly, like a storm gathering without wind, her hand rose. And in front of everyone, old men, young girls, buyers, sellers, and the ancestors watching from above, she slapped Mama Ijoma, a sharp, resounding slap, the kind that echoed beyond flesh, the kind that split air and hearts alike. Gasps exploded. "Jesus! Blood of Moses!" She slapped Mama Ijoma. The old woman staggered slightly, eyes wide, not from the pain, but from the betrayal. Amira's voice rang out, cold and commanding. "You lied to me. You told me I had no family," Amira barked. "You made me believe I was thrown away like trash. But I was stolen, wasn't I? You stole me. The villagers were stunned into silence. What is she talking about? Amira opened her designer handbag and pulled out an envelope, thick, white, and trembling in her manicured fingers. "I found this in the city," she said. "DNA results, a real mother, a wealthy one, searching for me for years. And where was I? Selling tomatoes under your command." Mama Ijoma opened her mouth, but no words came. Her hands trembled as she tried to reach out. "Amira, I never—" "Don't touch me," Amira spat. "You let me grow up thinking I was nobody." A small boy began to cry. The wind shifted. Amira stopped in front of her. Her eyes scanned the old woman from head to toe, noting the faded wrapper, the cracked feet, the tomato seeds under her nails. Then, slowly, like a storm gathering without wind, her hand rose. And in front of everyone, old men, young girls, buyers, sellers, and the ancestors watching from above, she slapped Mama Ijoma. A sharp, resounding slap, the kind that echoed beyond flesh, the kind that split air and hearts alike. Gasps exploded. "Jesus! Blood of Moses!" She slapped Mama Ijoma. The old woman staggered slightly, eyes wide, not from the pain, but from the betrayal. Amira's voice rang out, cold and commanding. "You lied to me!" "You told me I had no family," Amira barked. "You made me believe I was thrown away like trash, but I was stolen, wasn't I? You stole me!" The villagers were stunned into silence. What is she talking about? Amira opened her designer handbag and pulled out an envelope, thick, white, and trembling in her manicured fingers. "I found this in the city," she said. "DNA results, a real mother, a wealthy one, searching for me for years. And where was I? Selling tomatoes under your command." Mama Ijoma opened her mouth, but no words came. Her hands trembled as she tried to reach out. "Amira! I never—" "Don't touch me," Amira spat. "You let me grow up thinking I was nobody." A small boy began to cry. The wind shifted. What the villagers didn't know, what Amira couldn't yet understand, was that the truth was like palm wine. It must be tapped slowly, or it will turn bitter. Mama Ijoma stood in silence, her eyes glistening. Yes, she had found Amira in a basket. Yes, she had raised her without ever revealing the full truth. But to say she stole her, never. That night, after the commotion had scattered and Amira had driven off to lodge in the only hotel 15 kilometers away, Mama Ijoma sat alone, fingering the broken necklace Amira had worn as a baby. A token. The only clue to her past. Feel her fire," she whispered. "One day it will burn her enough to seek water, and then she'll come home." In her luxury suite, Amira stared into the mirror. She had everything now. Fame, wealth, Instagram followers, brand endorsements, but her reflection seemed hollow. The woman in the mirror wore diamonds, but her eyes were tired. Her slap had left her hand tingling, but her heart felt no victory. The TV played in the background, a Nollywood drama, a woman kneeling before her mother with tears. She muted it. From her bag she pulled out another envelope, this one older, yellowed with time. Inside was a faded photo of her as a baby being held by a woman who looked eerily like her birth mother. She was real and alive in the city, a businesswoman, married, powerful, searching for her since that night so many years ago. But the question lingered like the smell of old palm oil. Why was she left in a basket in the first place? The answers were coming. But first, the village had to feel her wrath. By the next morning, the whole of Obudu was ablaze with gossip. She slapped Mama Ijoma like she was a stranger. She said she was kidnapped. Imagine. But how can that be? Mama Ijoma is too gentle. Hey, rich people, They forget their roots. The elders gathered under the Iroko tree. The youth whispered near the river. Even the church choir changed their rehearsal song to something more reflective. And through it all, Mama Ijoma remained quiet. Not defeated, but wounded. Still, she tended her tomatoes. She swept her compound. She fed the goat that still refused to grow fat. But her eyes looked far, as if waiting for a deeper truth to surface. That evening, as dusk painted the sky in blood and gold, Mama Ijoma did something she hadn't done in years. She took out a wooden box from beneath her bed. Inside were a faded birth cloth, the broken necklace, a note she had found wrapped inside the baby's wrapper. Her name is Amira. Protect her. One day the stars will reveal her place. It was signed only with initials. N.A.E. Mama Ijoma held the necklace tight and whispered into the wind. The truth must come now, before bitterness eats her soul. The following days were filled with tension, as if the entire village of Obudu was sitting on the edge of a cliff, watching the drama unfold. Amira, now more confident than ever in her wealth and newfound identity, did not return to the village. But her return had left a trail of gossip that spread like wildfire. Whispers about her true identity, about the slap she delivered to Mama Ijoma, about the shocking discovery that was yet to be fully understood. Mama Ijoma, on the other hand, had retreated into herself, quietly tending to her little patch of land, her tomato farm, the only thing she could still hold on to with a sense of familiarity. But the sorrow in her heart was unmistakable, as was the mystery that still loomed over the circumstances of Amira's abandonment all those years ago. As the days went by, Amira's feelings of triumph slowly turned into something else. Doubt. She was in the city of Port Harcourt, having arrived at a lavish hotel with every intention of meeting her biological mother. Yet the closer she came to the truth, the more it slipped away like sand between her fingers. Her mother had arranged for a meeting, and Amira, with a mix of excitement and trepidation, waited in the lobby of the Grand Hotel. She could already see herself in the eyes of the woman who would greet her. Powerful, elegant, confident, and poised, just like the woman in the photo she had held in her hand the night she slapped Mama Ijoma. But would that woman be her mother? Minutes passed, then an hour, and there was still no sign of the woman she sought. The concierge had informed her that the mother would be arriving any moment, but Amira's patience was wearing thin. She stood by the window, looking out at the city's skyline, her thoughts racing. Finally, the door swung open. A woman entered, her heels clicking against the marble floor with a rhythmic precision that mirrored Amira's own. The woman was tall, wearing a tailored suit that screamed sophistication, and her hair was styled in a sleek bob that framed her face like a crown. But it wasn't the woman's appearance that caught Amira's attention. It was the fire in her eyes that matched her own. The woman's gaze locked onto Amira's, and the air seemed to thicken between them. "Amira," the woman said, her voice calm, almost detached. Amira could barely speak. The words felt trapped in her throat as she watched the woman approach her slowly, taking in the long, tense silence. "Yes," Amira finally managed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Are you—" The woman stepped closer and reached for the photo in Amira's hand. She looked at it carefully, then placed it back into Amira's trembling fingers. "I am your mother," she said, her words like a bomb exploding in the air. Amira's heart stopped. She blinked several times, trying to process the words that were coming out of the woman's mouth. The woman took a seat across from Amira, her eyes softening for the first time. "My name is Ngozi Eze," she began, "and yes, I am your mother. You were taken from me many years ago, and I never wanted to abandon you. But circumstances, as you know, are cruel." Amira felt her stomach drop. Taken? From you? How? Why? Ngozi sighed deeply, her eyes darkening with the weight of years gone by. I was young, Amira. I was just starting my career in Port Harcourt when I was forced to leave the village. My family needed me to stay, to help support them. But your father was a powerful man who didn't want you. He had his reasons, and when I tried to resist, they took you from me. Amira's world seemed to spin. But I was abandoned. In a basket left by the side of the road. Yes, Ngozi said softly. They made it look like I abandoned you, but I didn't. I never would. Tears welled up in Amira's eyes. So, I've been living a lie all this time. All these years I believed I was unwanted. Ngozi stood and walked over to Amira, placing her hands gently on her shoulders. Your life wasn't a lie, Amira, she said, her voice filled with emotion. It was a tragedy, a misunderstanding, and now we have a chance to fix it. But just as Amira was about to speak, something dark clouded Ngozi's eyes. She looked away, as if troubled by something. There's more, Ngozi continued in a hushed tone. More that you don't know. More that I couldn't tell you then. And even now, I don't know if I'm ready to reveal everything. Amira's mind raced, trying to piece together the puzzle of her life. Everything she thought she knew was falling apart, and the weight of the truth was too heavy to carry alone. Before she could question Ngozi further, there was a sharp knock on the door. A young man entered, dressed in a sharp suit. He bowed slightly, his eyes avoiding Amira's gaze. "Excuse me, madam," the young man said, addressing Ngozi. "We have news. The arrangements have been made." Ngozi nodded. She turned to Amira, her expression more serious now. "Amira, I need you to come with me. There's someone you need to meet, someone who can explain everything." They drove through the city to a mansion on the outskirts of Port Harcourt. The grand house stood behind tall gates, and Amira couldn't help but feel a sense of foreboding. As they stepped inside, Amira was greeted by an elderly man with gray hair, his face wrinkled with age and wisdom. He stood near a fireplace, staring into the flames as if waiting for something, or someone. "This is Dr. Chijioke," Ngozi said quietly. "He knows everything." Dr. Chijioke turned to face them, his eyes sharp but kind. "Amira," he said softly, "I have been waiting for you." He motioned for Amira to sit. With a heavy heart, she did, not knowing what to expect next. "Your past is full of secrets," Dr. Chijioke began. "But not all of them are meant to be kept. You see, the truth you seek is not just about your mother or the people who abandoned you, it's about something much greater." Amira felt her pulse quicken. The answers she had been searching for all her life were within reach. But were they worth the cost? Dr. Chijioke spoke again, his voice grave. "Amira, the reason they took you is because of who your father is. He is a man with power, not just in the physical world, but in the supernatural one as well." Amira's eyes widened. "What do you mean? My father?" Dr. Chijioke glanced at Ngozi, who nodded slowly. "Amira, your father was a man who dabbled in forces that were never meant to be tampered with. And when your birth was revealed, it triggered something ancient, something dangerous." A thick silence fell over the room as Dr. Chijioke's final words hung in the air like a ghost. "Your father dabbled in forces never meant to be tampered with." Amira stared at him, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. The grand house around her seemed to shrink, the walls pressing inward with the weight of that statement. She looked from Dr. Chijioke to Ngozi, whose face had grown pale. "Tell me," Amira whispered. "Tell me everything." Dr. Chijioke exhaled deeply and sat across from her. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a burden of many years. "Your father's name was Ekene Obi. He was not a poor man. In fact, he came from one of the most respected families in Nasuka. But beneath the wealth and respect, your father bore a curse passed down through the Obi bloodline for generations. It was said that no firstborn daughter of an Obi man would live past her 30th birthday, unless she was given to the spirits at birth. Amira's mouth went dry. Given to the spirits? Yes, Chijioke nodded. It was an ancient pact. Centuries ago, the Obi family struck a secret deal with the Orisha of Shadows to protect their power. In exchange, every firstborn daughter would either be sacrificed or banished into a life of abandonment. If not, death would come swiftly before her prime. Amira's hands trembled. You mean, I was supposed to die? Ngozi leaned forward now, placing her palm on Amira's. I was warned when I gave birth to you, Amira. They told me to give you up, that if I didn't, the curse would fall upon you and destroy us all. I begged your father to defy it. He refused. When I ran away to save you, they found us. They didn't kill you, but they ensured you'd be left behind, forgotten, hidden away from your true name. Tears spilled down Amira's cheeks. Her whole life had been a lie, not just of love, but of blood, sacrifice, and secrets. Dr. Chijioke stood and walked to an old cabinet. From it, he pulled a dusty scroll bound with red and black threads. He laid it before Amira. This is the ancient pact, the original contract made by your ancestors. You are the first daughter in over 150 years, who has survived past childhood, and now the Orisha have begun to stir again. He unrolled the scroll. Amira saw it. Symbols etched in blood, names written in tribal ink, a tree marked with burning roots. Her name was there. Amira Obi. You were never just an orphan girl, Dr. Chijioke said solemnly. You were born to tip the balance between light and darkness. Your survival is a violation of the pact, and the spirits are coming. Amira shivered. So what does that mean? She asked. Ngozi looked into her eyes. It means you must choose, Amira. Break the curse, or let it consume everything you love. Amira knew then that her journey was not just about revenge or identity. It was about survival, of herself, of her people, and of the truth. They returned to Obudu by nightfall. The air was thick with unease. Even the animals were silent, as if the land itself knew a storm was approaching. The village square was empty. Windows were closed, doors barred. But the gossip had never stopped. Mama Ijeoma stood by her hut, watching as Amira stepped out of the car beside Ngozi. You returned again, Mama Ijeoma said bitterly. But Ngozi stepped forward, her voice firm. We are here not for war, but for healing. Mama Ijeoma's face cracked, not with anger, but confusion. Healing from what? From a curse your husband helped enforce, Ngozi said. He was one of them. He was there when they took Amira away. You knew. You knew. Mama Ijeoma froze. Her lips trembled. She looked at Amira with eyes wide in horror. No, I was told it was for her good, that she'd be safe. I didn't know they were feeding a curse. Amira felt her knees weaken. You helped abandon me. You let me rot while you raised your own. Mama Ijeoma fell to her knees. I was weak. I was a coward. But before she could finish, a loud gust of wind howled through the village square. The air darkened, the sky above flickered with ash. Ngozi looked up. They found us. A shriek pierced the air, high and ancient like the cry of a forgotten god. From the forest behind the village, black figures began to rise, shadows with glowing red eyes floating inches above the ground. The villagers began to scream and scatter. Dr. Chijioke stepped forward, drawing a powdery circle on the earth with white chalk and herbs. Amira, step inside. They will not touch you if you are within the seal. Amira obeyed, trembling. The spirits came closer, circling the square. One of them floated toward Mama Ijoma, who was still weeping on the ground. She must pay, the spirit hissed. The pact was broken. The daughter must return. Amira stood up. I will not go back to the shadows. I didn't choose this life, but I will choose what becomes of it now. The spirit paused. You would break the blood oath? Yes, Amira shouted, but not through fear, through truth. Ngozi handed her a knife, carved from the sacred iron of the Ebini Hills. Only a blood heir can sever the curse. Your blood, your will. Amira stepped forward, holding the knife in both hands. She cut her palm and let the blood drip into the fire at the center of the circle. The flames exploded in a bright white light. The shadows shrieked and dissolved into ash. Silence fell again. The curse was broken. By dawn, the village began to stir again. The shadows were gone. The skies cleared. The birds sang like they hadn't. In decades, Amira stood in the square with Ngozi and Dr. Chijioke beside her. Mama Ijoma remained kneeling, still weeping. I can never undo what I did, she said, but I will spend the rest of my life trying. Amira nodded. You raised me, even if through hardship, but now I know who I am. The sun rose slowly over Obudu, casting warm golden light across the thatched rooftops and red earth paths. But this morning felt different. The air carried a weight that was no longer dread, but promise. Amira stood at the village square, the same place where the shadows had come the night before. Now the square bustled with villagers. Children played barefoot. Elders sat beneath the Udala tree discussing what they had witnessed, and men patched roofs torn during the storm of spirits. She breathed in deeply. She had broken the curse. But the story was not over. 3 days after, the ritual, as calm returned to Obudu, a letter arrived, delivered by a young boy who claimed he found it buried beneath a mango tree at the Obi compound. It was sealed with red wax and bore a strange emblem. A lion, pierced by 3 arrows. Amira broke the seal and opened the brittle parchment. To my daughter, Amira. If you are reading this, then the gods have allowed you to live beyond the fate. Written for you. I am sorry. I was a coward, but I was not blind. I left you clues, and if you have followed them this far, then I believe you are the one to free our family. There is one last thing I must give you. Not gold, not land, but the truth. Beneath our old house is a burial chamber. In it lies the original idol of the Orisha of Shadows. Break it, and the curse is not only broken for you, but for all daughters in our lineage yet to be born. Forgive me. Ekene Obi. Amira's hands trembled again, but this time not. With fear, with resolve. With Ngozi and Dr. Chijioke at her side, Amira returned to the ruins of the Obi family compound. The house had long been abandoned, overtaken by creeping vines and cracked mud. In the central hall, hidden beneath a dusty mat, they found a trap door. The air beneath was musty, ancient. They climbed down a ladder made of carved Iroko wood and entered a chamber lit only by the glow of a single oil lamp that still flickered. At the center stood the idol, a black figure carved from obsidian, its eyes made from cowrie shells, its teeth sharp like thorns. Amira approached it. She could feel it humming, a presence, a warning. This idol held the contract, Chijioke whispered. Breaking it is the final act of defiance. Ngozi touched her daughter's shoulder. Only you can do this. Only your blood can end it. Amira raised the sacred iron knife once more. Her breath was steady. With a single swing, she smashed the idol to pieces. A blinding white light erupted through the chamber, and for a moment, the entire compound rumbled like thunder. then silence, then peace. The curse had been erased from history. In the weeks that followed, Amira remained in Obudu, but this time not as a stranger or an outcast, as a builder of change. She gathered the women of the village, those who had been silenced, exiled, and forgotten. Together, they rebuilt the old Obi compound, not as a mansion, but as a center for women and daughters, offering education, shelter, and healing. Ngagozi became a spiritual guide to young mothers. Dr. Chijioke helped set up a free clinic, and Amira, she became known as Nwanyi Iche, the different woman. She was invited to speak in neighboring villages, then cities. Her story, a girl abandoned, cursed, and nearly erased, became a rallying cry across Nigeria. She wrote a memoir titled The Girl They Tried to Forget, which became a bestseller, but she never let the fame distract her from her roots. She built wells. She funded schools. She taught girls that the past may shape you, but it does not own you. One quiet evening, Amira sat by her father's grave. The wind was gentle. Birds sang as the sun dipped behind the hills. "I forgive you," she whispered, "not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace." She placed a single white rose on his grave. As she turned to leave, she saw a young girl, peeking from behind a tree, barefoot, wild-haired, maybe 7 years old. "You're the woman who chased away the spirits," the girl said shyly. Amira smiled. "Yes, but I had help." The girl stepped forward and touched her hand. "Will you teach me how to be like you?" Amira knelt, her eyes warm. "No, little one. You'll be better than me." Obudu never forgot the night the sky turned black and a woman turned her curse into a crown. And in time, they would tell the tale of Amira Obi, the child abandoned, the woman returned, and the queen who rebuilt a village. From the ashes of secrets,